Another lap is in the books then. Muhammad, Fioravanti, Koistra, Brook, Winter. This is your top 5 as the cars head down the first corner. Lots and lots of runoff areas, as you can see, as Kim has decided to jump into the pits. One thing that
apologies for that.
Yeah, no issues. You know, one thing that we can say about this racetrack is that, especially after the renovation works, there is a lot of runoff area. And so unless you really, you know, crash in some specific places, you should be able to get back, of course, for Kim. That was not the case. And he is all the way down in last place. And I think he will have to settle for a last place start in race 2. As Mark Winter is also having some issues, you can see him dropping, and yeah, he is. Oh! Don't beat yourself on the curb. We have seen that happen in the past. He's waiting for everyone to go through and back onto the racing surface. You have to be careful. Even though his car seems to be crabbing a little bit, or maybe it's just the camera angle that was giving the impression. Let's see if he hit the barriers on the replay. Oh wow, that was like 10 feet of light contact there.
Yeah, a lot of netcode as a result of that. And he did well to keep that car up off the curbs there. As you say, it would have been very easy to get stuck up there and would have put paid to his first race. Looks like he's pulled it into the pit lane. So I dare say we've got at least 2 guys that we definitely know will be starting from the back of the grid for the next.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, talk about a bit of bad luck there, because there was certainly nothing wrong that both drivers did. But, you know, it is, you know, a risk of this job, you know, so to speak, when you race with people from all over the world. Sometimes the prediction algorithm is hit and miss. And that was sadly bad luck for Winter, who now, like you said, has to basically work all the way from penultimate place, the final row of the grid, in race 2. Muhammad 149.3 is the fastest lap of the race. He is already pulling in front 3.1 seconds over Fioravanti, who was able to get back into second place after losing second place. And as you can see, sporting the Italian tricolor on his car. Koistra in third, and Brook Kim 4th and 5th. Koistra certainly one of the drivers that has shown the most promise in this season. He has shown some pace, and it's nice to have him at the front. Same can be said for Benjamin Brook, for Brook Racing. He has always been there or thereabouts, and he's about to, you know, if he doesn't make mistakes, he's certainly in contention for a top 5.
Absolutely. I mean, both those guys are looking very, very well, and they've only come on stronger and stronger throughout the entirety of this season. Just looking at where Koistra and that's currently sitting in the points, he's only just outside the top 5, currently sitting in 6th in the point standing, and we will touch base on that overall very, very soon. And likewise, Ben Brook just outside the 10. So these guys with the consistency certainly moving their way up the ladder. We've got Tai Kim up on at the moment. He's got himself a nice bit of a gap. He kind of finds himself in a little bit of no man's land here between Ben Brook and Steve McCade. So that fresh air will certainly be helping him at the moment.
Absolutely, as the cameras are on the carbon fiber livery of Kim as he's going down the backstretch, and you can see how dirty it is outside of the proper racing line. Track has not been cleared, apparently. This is a setting that the organizers can choose, and it's very, very nice, because it means that basically the drivers will have to clean the track by themselves by going a little bit, you know, by adventuring on that dirty side of the racetrack. And him certainly looking to close the gap between himself and Brook, but this lap not good enough, 1 second slower than the car in 4th place, and so certainly not what he was looking forward to from the timing. He needs to push harder if he wants to close the gap with Brook and maybe go for a move on that top 4.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, looking at the car, we've got the onboard shot up here at the moment. The car's getting into the apex quite well, just not got that overall speed out of it. And like you were saying, with the track state being uncleaned or anything like that. It will promote a more of a single line racing groove, which we're getting now. And for the guys that are able to get up and close in, go for positions, it's certainly going to spice up their opportunities having a pass. They're going to want to try and get those moves done very, very early before the braking zones, just to get themselves back in on that stickier bit of road.
Taking a look at the clock, by the way, it is in sim time 7:31 p.m. Hopefully, we don't have a repeat of what happened in Zandvoort earlier in the season. We should be okay. It's the 17th of August in sim and also in real life, so it should be good timing-wise. The sun should set late. Also, we are very much in the northern part of Europe, so it shouldn't be an issue, unlike what happened a few races ago. It will certainly provide the drivers with a very nice and cool racetrack, which is of course always welcome, Daniel, when you race with these cars that are always on the edge of grip.
Yeah, look, I think all drivers would love a cool track, and they're getting that out there tonight. It's with a temperature of 19 degrees and 19 track temp at the moment, it's certainly ideal for these cars. Probably the hardest part, which the guys have already gotten through now, is that opening phase of 2 to 3 laps where they've got to get that temperature into the tyres. And as a result of that, we do have these big gaps between the fielders. The guys are able to switch them on a little bit quicker, or some guys may be struggling there. But right now is kind of almost happier, similar to what you see at Le Mans, that very early morning segment just before you get the sunlight on the circuit. The guys would really be starting to get into that now.
Absolutely. As by the way, the F3 car about to get, I think, a nice boost in participation coming next season, because what was debuted as the Formula Fun Series will switch from being a fun series to an official series, which has a big thumbs up from me. I might even race in that as Park, aggressive, trying to get around Kevin Wang, goes into the grass and back onto the racing surface. That was Mark Winter. He is almost 1 lap down, going past. Oh no, sorry, he's 1 lap down. Apologies.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was good to see that Mark actually come back out to have a run. You never know with the way these races go. If you're not in it and there is some issues earlier or further up the field, you're kind of almost kicking yourself with still 9 minutes on the clock if you're not out there having a go. So good to see him there. He may potentially be able to climb another space in the event of some other incidents or issues, but we'll see how that goes. Just looks like our lap time's up the front with Alif and Firavati getting very, very close now. Only last time by was less than 1/10 of a second between both drivers.
And Kim is not able to close the gap. Even when Brooke hits a bad lap time, 51.6, Kim gets 51.7. So Kim, surprisingly, I thought he was going to be able to fight for the podium in this first race, but he's not fine. Maybe he's got some damage on his car also, who knows. As you can see right now on the screen, between Mohammad Alif and Fioravanti, the gap has been dropping in the past couple of laps. Not by much, but it has been dropping. So let's keep an eye on that. Certainly 3 seconds with 8 minutes left in the race is a nice gap to have. But a lot of things can happen, and certainly if you keep the pressure on the leader, that's the one thing you can do if you want to, maybe pressure him into making a mistake, and or maybe picking up a slowdown, and that's one way in which Fioravanti could close the gap in these final 8 minutes of the race.
Correct, and there's quite a lot of spots around this circuit, even though it is a very flowy circuit where you can have a couple of issues, like the guys coming down into Vale, off Vale down through towards Club now, which we're on board with Firavati. Very easy to lock a brake and run a bit wide through there, but both drivers getting through pretty nice, and we might actually stick on board here with Firavati as Mohammad Alif. Actually, both drivers setting their personal best laps last time by. We'll go on board here with Firavati for a nice lap around the Silverstone GP.
We have a nice onboard shot of the Italian driver as he's hitting the apexes and now back through the gears. Third, now fourth, and he's about to clip 200 kilometers per hour down to up to fifth, and now he will get into sixth. Braking very, very late. Very good race from Fioravanti. Maybe that gap will be too much to cover, but certainly he's putting on a nice statement, and you know, race 2 he will start eventually in front. Look how much they can cut there on the all-star finish line. I think it's a nice balance there, a very, very fine balance also between getting the most advantage possible and not getting a slowdown if you cut a little bit too much there.
Yeah, that's something we've seen in a couple of other series as well. I know when the Porsche iRacing World Cup was here, a lot of drivers were really using that little bit of area to full advantage. And I know you couldn't do that a lot with the old layout, but something that iRacing has certainly opened up, which is nice. As you say, it does promote a little bit more aggression on the circuit, but there is that blend, like you say, of going a little bit too hard and maybe picking up that slowdown penalty as a result. But looking at Fioravanti's lap pace through here at the moment, he's actually said it last sector through was a purple sector for him, so he's certainly on another good lap here.
49.2 for Fioravanti, fastest lap of the race. 49.3 for Muhammad Alif, so Fioravanti gains, but Muhammad is responding and is keeping the loss of time to a minimum. So, I mean, that is exactly what you want to do. Even if you're not the fastest on the track, if you can get close to the times that your rival is having, it's good, especially if you are in the lead. And now with less than 5 minutes away, Fioravanti, despite his valiant effort, pushing very, very hard, needs a mistake from Muhammad Alif if he wants to win this race.
Definitely, and it looks like we're seeing both drivers pushing very wide up towards the gravel traps there, so not going too far out, but that could start causing some issues. I think what we really need to start setting ourselves up for, though, is with the reverse grid for race 2, watching the faster guys come back through the field certainly will be a lot more entertaining for the viewers out there than what we're seeing at the moment. But you know, take nothing away from what the guys are doing with Fioravanti and Muhammad still pressuring on to the final minutes of this race. Anything still could happen. And looking further down the field as well, it looks like all the gaps have really stretched out. Just keeping an eye, and you can see it just on the top left of your screen there, the current standings. So Muhammad Alif out front, Luca Fioravanti sitting second, and Roy Krustra in third, and about 13 seconds covering the top 3 at the moment. So the guys are really, really well spread out now. And Muhammad Alif last time by setting a new fastest lap, a 1:49.0. So he took 0.3 of a second out of Fioravanti there. That's a big gain comparative to what we've seen the last few laps.
So let's keep an eye on the clock, by the way, because we have lap times around the 1:49, 1:50 mark. And so with Alif basically 30% or more into this lap, I think we'll have this one and one more before the end of the race.
Yeah, I think with that little bit of time left, that's not really enough for Fioravanti to possibly get a move done under normal racing conditions. So short of there being some form of dropout for the drivers, we may not see those two positions change, but they're certainly putting on, still applying the pressure, even with what could be the next lap, or last time lap next time.
Mark Lang sitting in P8, provisional pole for race 2. He has to defend a 7 seconds gap over Kevin Wang in these final 2 minutes of the race, who should be in a good position to do so, as our race leader is about to finish this lap, so we can officially say the white flag will be in the air in just a few seconds.
Yeah, I've actually been really impressed with how Mark's come on after his switch from the 79 into the F3 midway through the season. He's really starting to pick it up, and for a driver who we normally see down towards the back end of the field, great to see him sticking with it. And if anything, I think the consistency that he's been able to show in that car over the course of this championship so far is really starting to pay dividends for him. And with the top 8 reversing, he'll set himself up for a really good start next time by.
Absolutely, as you know, that was a good point you just put up, because driving the Lotus 79 at the beginning of the season was not easy to make the switch. Different cars that can compete with each other, but completely different philosophy. We touched on that in the Monza round. As I see someone appear and disappear, I think it might be Sartono in front of Lang with a little bit of connection issues. Yes, it's him. You can see on the left side of the screen on the scoring column appearing and disappearing in that I think McLaren style livery. As back at the front, Muhammad is taking his final few corners. Very well deserved race 1 win, another win in what has been a very, very successful season, as Fioravanti has all of a sudden dropped several seconds. Final corner for Muhammad Alif. He will win race 1 in style, leading from start to finish, and he gets another victory in this season. Fioravanti should finish second. I think he spun from 3 seconds up to 11 seconds, the gap between himself and the leader. He is still able to maintain and score a podium, and Rokoistra should be as well able to get P3. He comes home slowly but surely, and now all the other driver, Brook, you caught a glimpse of him. There he is, and Kim disappointing, I think, only in 5th. And now this train of cars with Sartono, Lang, with Sartono, who should be able to keep P7 and a spot on the front row. And of course, pole position in the second race will be for Mark Lang. The car behind him is Mark Winter. He's a lap down. He will finish 11th. Big disappointment for him. Bad luck. Mark Lang gets his fastest lap of the race in this final lap. Kevin Wang in 9th, and we're just waiting for one more driver. That is Park Min for iRacing Korea. And he has quite a bit of track left to cover, and so he will get a little bit of camera time. Why not? And he will start in 3rd place in the second race, which, by the way, as per usual, will start in just a couple of minutes. The moment Park comes home and crosses the start-finish line, as you can see, big damage on his front wing there, by the way. He will, the session will switch over. The drivers will have 1 minute to grid, and then it's back to the rolling start for race 2. So like we say every time, not a lot of time to get ready, not a lot of time to make adjustments, and basically you have to be ready. There is no rest. This is one of the biggest pauses between the races we had all season, because Park was such a long way behind, but there he goes, and that's the race 1. And so here we go with the starting grid of race 2. Of course, top 8 reversed makes the final results of race 1. So Mark Lang, Fuji Sartono, pole position, and second place then Steven Bocate, Tekim, Benjamin Brook, Rokoistra, Luca Fioravanti, and Muhammad Alif. In 7th and 8th, Kevin Wang and Park Min in 9th and 10th, and Mark Winter and Kim Joo-min will round up your grid of 12. As the sun is setting, the clouds are gathering over the racetrack, but we should be good to go for this 25-minute second race. So, what do you say, Daniel? Will we see Alif and Fioravanti storm to the front of the pack, or will they have trouble in doing so?
Look, I dare say that we will see Elif and Fioravanti come through the field. We've seen it in quite a few other race twos throughout the calendar. Similar to last week, probably the guys found themselves a little bit more trouble working their way through. Probably took a little longer than they ideally would have liked, but I definitely think that we will see them manage to form their way up and get through. Looks like the car's just on their start now, rolling through. Where are we now? Rolling through Stowe, so not too far to go. And yeah, the start here with everyone dropping down single file like we saw last time will be very interesting to see how that goes and whether the guys are able to play it. But Mark Lang already off trying to get a run on this.
Yes, and like we said earlier, it's tough to get a good run double file because it is such compact. There's such small distance between the final chicane, final corner, and the start of the races. Fioravanti, how is this possible? He's already up to second place, touching, banging wheels with Brook. So Fioravanti either had a massive start or got disqualified from race 1 because he was starting very, very close. He's already in second place, whilst Muhammad Alif is only in 6th. Hopefully Fioravanti didn't jump the start because that is a massive, massive leap. And you can see there the black car of Muhammad Alif getting past Fuji Sartono and now setting his sights on Kim in front of him. Hopefully also Brook and Fioravanti both are okay after that contact they had while going through the first couple of corners in the arena section. An exciting start. Were you keeping an eye on Fioravanti maybe because he stormed at the front like it was easy?
Yeah, I didn't actually see the move. I was really surprised to see him battling as hard as he was with Brook there. So he's really got a good read on that. Fioravanti's got himself in a little bit of trouble that we kind of suspected there would be at the start here, but we're going to see a change for the lead now. Fioravanti got an awesome run on the back Mark Lane down through the hangar straight, and he will set up a move here down to Stowe. Mark's pulled over, giving him a lot of room here, which I'm somewhat surprised early on, and making the job very easy for Fioravanti, which will actually help, if anything, him extend his lead and margin over Muhammad Alif. So we will get a bit of a role reversal between those two. Muhammad not quite able to get a move done yet on Benjamin Brook. He does get past Roy Koistra, so that's one down, and only 3 more to go to get himself up into second.
Yeah, certainly taking the cautious approach with Muhammad Alif, whilst Fioravanti went all in the first few corners. He is picking up his opponents one by one, and like you said, now attacking Brook and completing the pass. He will have a nice run here on Mark Lang and should be second in just a bit as they brake hard. And
yeah, Mark's actually going to lose a spot as well with Ben Brook coming through.
Absolutely, and also I think Koistra also joined the train, so Mark Lang from second down to 5th, and from 1st to 5th in the span of a few corners, and now I think down to 6th as well, because Kim Joo-min is past his Eurasia SimSport teammate. So Lang now is in 6th. We have Taekim in 7th, Fuji Sartono in 8th, Kevin Wang, Min Park, and Mark Winter. Mark Winter is already 1 lap down. And Steven Bocade did not take the start in this. So around goes Sartono, I think. No, it's Kevin Wang going around. I think no.
I thought it was
Kim Joo-min.
I thought it was Kim Joo-min, yes, having a spin there in front of Mark. So lucky avoidance for both those guys. He was able to get out of the way there, but that will put him down. He's got some good pace in that car, so he should be able to make his way back up. He's got Fuji Sartono just in front of him, who's also carrying a little bit of damage on his front wing.
Here we go with the replay then. As this is no contact. We were focusing our cameras on Mark Lang, but you can clearly see there was no contact. Basically car number 1 Kim Joo-min was on his own, and on his own he spun. Like we said in the beginning of the broadcast, even though cool track temperatures and all of that, rolling start, whatever you want, still this car is always on the edge and ready to snap on you if you don't pay attention. The moment you relax, basically, this car will betray you.
Yeah, that's something you normally see with all open wheels. They are really knife-edge cars and got to be good. The one thing I'm a little surprised with, and maybe we'll get some word from him later on throughout the week, was he was a long way off through Chapel as well. So he was carrying a lot of dirt, which wouldn't have helped that getting back on the power down through the Hangar Straight. And I think that's what ultimately spun that car around. So not sure whether he had a little bit of an issue getting in through Beckett's and that just before Chapel. So we'll keep an eye out and see what comes up through the forums, but certainly not ideally what he would have wanted. Roy Krustra up on screen here, putting a bit of a gap now on Benjamin Brook that has extended to 1.2 seconds now. So those guys are getting on with it. And looks like Kim's closed up on the back of Mark Lang behind, so that spin hasn't really impacted him too much. But
they touch the two teammates. That is very, very unfortunate. Kim going back, pointing in the right direction, but there was definitely contact between the pair and damage on the front wing of Kim as he heads straight for the pits, and I think also damage to the rear wing of his teammate there. Let's see the replay here. You can see the number 44 car rear wing bending after impact. And it wasn't, again, I think there was a bit of lag contact in there that involved Mark and Kim. That is very, very unfortunate as we move to the front, because Luca Fioravanti is doing basically what Muhammad did in the first race, and that is checking out from the field. The gap is 3.3 seconds. Fioravanti has just scored the fastest lap of the race in the previous lap, and he is certainly enjoying his clean air. He has learned from his race 1 experience, where he was at times even quicker than Muhammad, but now I would say that the gamble so far of starting in a very aggressive way clearly paid off for Luca, because he is basically now building on the gap that he created by passing many cars in the first lap, getting on the front as quickly as possible, even with a bit of wheel banging, whilst Muhammad had to pick his way through the traffic. And now that they are both in clean air, let's keep an eye on the clock, because judging by what I saw in the previous laps, I don't know if Muhammad has an answer for Luca's times. Let's see. We'll know straight away. Fast lap of the race for Muhammad, but only a couple of tenths quicker than Fioravanti. So he needs more. Muhammad, if he wants to close the gap. If Fioravanti is able to keep this pace, which I think he has.
Absolutely. Looking at the sector times last time by, the drivers were trading quicker sectors throughout both laps there, and looking at the times and differences, they've only been 1 to 2 tenths of a second difference between each lap. So not too far between them, and we're seeing Fioravanti do exactly what Muhammad lifted in race 1, and just managing that gap. It's sat pretty well on about 3 seconds, 3.2 now for a little while now, and I don't think it's going to close down too much more than that. Touch wood, unless someone does have a bit of an issue here and runs wide and maybe has a spin similar to what we saw with Kim. And looks like Kim's actually retired his car now, and it looks like also Mark Winter's back in the pit lane as well. So we're going to have a couple of cars out for the race so far. Steve Bacade unfortunately did not start. Kim Joo-min had his issue there in the back of Mark Lang, and that will no doubt be reviewed by the stewards after the race, and then Min Park in the lane as well. So down to nine effective runners at the moment.
And by the way, Luca Fioravanti, a driver from Italy, from the town of Moncalieri, which is near Turin in northern Italy, but now residing in Shanghai. That's why he's taking part in this championship. Former pro driver in the Blancpain GT series on iRacing before it became the VRS series, and a former karting driver in real life, and certainly very he has raced occasionally in the series, but he's showing today he really has the pace because let's be honest, this season Muhammad Alif has been rarely challenged at the top of the standings, but today certainly Fioravanti is showing that he is on par with Muhammad's speed. He was certainly there in race 1, and these drivers are so even now in race 2. The moment they both got out of the traffic, it is very tough for the chasing driver to chip away at the gap in a significant manner.
Yeah, and I think that's great for what we've seen in the series. I mean, Alif generally, from what we've seen throughout the series, taking round 1, and then we get this little bit of a form reversal with Fioravanti. If he's not up there in race 1, certainly thereabouts, or taking the win in race 2. So, like you say, while there is a pretty big disparity with the iRacing system between both drivers, very, very equally matched on pace, especially around a circuit like Silverstone, as we said earlier on. Very wide, fast, flowy, and really suits the driving styles of both of these two behind the wheel, along with the car itself. So we're getting some very, very respectable times. It looks like Muhammad Alif gone a little bit quicker in Sector 2 this time by 800ths of a second, but is it enough for him to get another faster slap as Fioravanti crosses the line now?
One tenth slower was Muhammad Alif this time around, a bit quicker than him, but we are talking about thousands of a second. It's Koistra, so the top 3 very, very closely matched. At the same time, this is making, of course, difficult to have some action on track. We might have some action on the track right now, as the cameras are on Kevin Wang, and he is closing in on Mark Lang, his teammate. Mark Lang with some damage to his rear wing, sadly impeding his pace. Now, of course, we shouldn't forget that pushing very, very hard in the first race, in the very last lap, Fioravanti made a mistake, so this is not over. I'm not saying that he will make a mistake, but certainly, or maybe making that mistake will help him not do the same now. Of course, being at the front, you have more to lose than when he was chasing there in second place and made a mistake at the end of race 1. He knew that regardless he would have finished second, so maybe it took a little bit too much of a risk. Either way, Kevin Wang can't close in on his teammate just yet, and so he will have to be content with 8th place for now.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin's really been a series regular in this championship, be it open wheelers or GT. Also, the series steward as well, so he reviews all the incidents post race and has the unpleasant job of having to hand out the penalties post race. Looks like not quite able to close that gap on Lang, who we know for Kevin, he's primarily a GT driver and very, very accomplished in those, but struggling a little bit more with the open wheel nature of these cars. But it looks like both himself and Mark Lang closing up on the back of Fuji Santo in the McLaren liveried Formula 3 tonight, so we could see these guys actually jump their way up just outside the top 5.
As we are about to enter the final 10 minutes of this feature race here from Silverstone. Next week, the 10th and final round of the championship will come your way. Same time, same place, at 13 GMT from Montreal, and that is going, of course, to be a spectacular race with the very, very, very narrow nature of the racetrack and the way it is shaped with the long straights and tight chicanes. will certainly put these drivers on the test, especially because of the presence of those very, very big NASCAR-style curbs that were in place when the track was scanned, because the track was scanned just before a NASCAR Nationwide Series race. So that is why we have those big curbs. As now Mark Lang under big pressure once again from Kevin Wang, but Kevin cannot close the gap. Maybe he will now, and of course Fuji Sartono is there, so this might be a very, very tasty battle, especially if Wang can pass Lang, and I think he will right now.
Yeah, look like Mark Lang just eased off the gas a little bit on the Exeter Chapel, just to allow Huang to come through, but they're closing up really close again down through Stowe. But with Kevin now being released, it'll be interesting to see what he's got for Fuji just ahead of him, though, that gap just on a 1.5 seconds ahead of him. So if he's able to get the pace down and power up, should be very good. And while we keep an eye on that, next week we go to a completely different circuit from Silverstone off to Montreal and Circuit de Villeneuve. And it's going to be interesting to see how the guys are able to adjust from this open nature of this circuit to a little bit more of a street circuit next time out.
Yeah, especially since also there you don't have any kind of runoff area except for maybe the first corner and the hairpin. As, by the way, Mark Lang is hitting back at his teammate, getting very, very close and maybe fancying his chances. Let's see if he's going to go for it or if he's doesn't want to impede his teammate run, trying to catch 6th place. At the front, still 3.1 seconds between Fioravanti and Halif, so Fioravanti still holding strong. The gap is the same, more or less. Koistra is in 3rd and Brook is in 4th, and Brook, I think if he can find a little bit more pace, he could realistically challenge for the podium. He has been a bit slower than Koistra in this last couple of laps, as Muhammad gets 49.2, Fioravanti 49.6. So Muhammad gains a bit, Fioravanti with a poor lap. And look at the lap times, 3rd and 4th, basically identical. Nothing in them, nothing between them. And the situation remains the same, as Mark Lang is still trying to put pressure, and he passes Kevin Wang because I think Kevin Wang made a mistake. His number flashing in red, and he is a long way back from Mark Lang, so certainly a mistake. Let's see the replay. And a spin while putting the power down. We have seen many of those all throughout the season.
Oh, and Mark likewise
Mark Lang
doing the same as well.
Oh, careful there. Almost another disaster between the Eurasia teammates. And Kevin gets 7th place back, so these two guys don't want this 7th place. Everyone who gets it makes a mistake. We are very happy because we still get a nice fight between the two of them. Let's see if this time Kevin will hold on or if he's going to make another mistake, as the gap between Koistra and Brooks momentarily going below 1 second, now over the 1 second threshold, but still close, very, very close.
Absolutely, and looking at the lap times too, just keeping an eye on the sector traces between both of those, Ben Brook and Roy Koistra, absolutely nothing between them as far as outright pace this lap as well. So like we saw last time, I think it was 1,000th of a second between them. I think we might be a little difference as Brook actually spins same spot where Kevin Huang went around. So Tyre's not really liking that, and he's actually going to drop a place here to take him.
The 19th minute of the race is about to start. There will be only 6 left from this moment onwards, as Brook with this very brightly colored car. Of course, I would imagine a lot of people keeping an eye on the Ashes as well these days, even though they have been marred by poor weather. I know I have been watching them, so.
I should be saying I have been, but I haven't found the time to get out and watch it. So a little bit un-Australian of me not to support the national team, but yeah, it's hard to do it, especially with the time zone between the two spots. But it is what it is. I think I heard there's been a lot of issue with the weather, but not ideal. But yeah, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Unfortunately, it looks like Mark Lang's still working on the back of Kevin Huang for 7th at the moment, and not a lot between those guys, as you say. Neither of them really wanting to get a hold of that 7th place at the moment, and they currently find themselves a further 6 seconds down the road from Fuji Santner, who not that long ago, they were starting to really close that gap down.
Fastest lap of the race for Fioravanti, just as Muhammad Alif gets his personal best, so the two drivers finding out their best laps with just a few minutes left at the same time, as Kim is very close to the back of Koistra and makes the move. So Kim, out of nowhere, basically jumps up into 3rd place.
Yeah, well, that change of position for 3rd, that was part of the last lap. Oh, sorry, that was Brooke.
Oh, Luca Fioravanti is around from the lead. Another mistake in the closing stages of the race for Fioravanti. He was 2nd in the first race when he made a mistake. He didn't lose any positions, but now with Muhammad Alif so close, that was a very, very costly mistake. He will be furious with himself. Let's see, he drove so well, but the pressure of Alif was maybe too much, as the car was basically in a long, lazy slide. And at a certain point, when he put the gas pedal down, he lost the grip. And that was all she wrote for Fioravanti, sadly. And, luckily for Alif, he gets a surprising chance at a clean sweep of the proceedings now.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really a gifted race for Muhammad now to get across the line there. And looking at the way Fioravanti went around with that onboard shot, he had next to no throttle in the car. So maybe the tyres not being able to have that little bit of adjustment time between races 1 and 2 was really actually suffered there, and those tyres just got to the end of their lifespan. But he'll be bitterly disappointed with himself as a result of that, but does have another race, or 2 races out next time by to try and make amends for that. So we've got Roy Kroostra up on screen again, another lazy spin in the same section we saw Kevin Huang go around, down through the club area as well. So the guys are really starting to struggle on those tyres at the moment.
They are absolutely, of course, these 5 minutes are proving to be a bit too much for the tires. These 5 extra minutes we have in race 2. So the Canadian-based driver is now sitting in 3rd, but with a nice train of cars behind him, because both Koistra and Brooks are there, and they will fight Kim until the final lap of the race, and they will fight against themselves as well. The race leader right now is about to finish this lap, so dare I say, the white flag will drop when Alif comes to the start-finish line in this lap.
Yeah, and Ben and Kroostra still going hard on it. Only half a second between these guys, and not much further up the road again to Kim. So they're not going to want to let go. They've got a little bit more than a lap and a half to make a move happen here. But if anything, they're not quite getting the best out of these cars. Just looking at the laps, a couple of sectors for both drivers, and almost identical. So there's no real positional gains between either of these guys right now.
Seems like Koistra has a good run. Let's see. Covering the inside is Kim. On the outside, the orange car of Koistra. Very close to each other. We have seen some lag contact today. Oh, they were very lucky Koistra is the inside right now. And doesn't make the move. Nice defending there from Kim. But it's not over.
Not by a long shot, and I'm really surprised Kroistra wasn't able to get that move completed. He's really trying hard. His next spot's probably going to be up through Village, up into the switchback, and we've seen a couple of passes in some other series up through here, so if he's able to hold on, could potentially get a move. If not, it will set him up for a really nice run out down Wellington.
As the white flag is in the air, the race leader, Muhammad Alif, marching towards the second victory of the day. Fioravanti, a very disappointing second after leading with style the majority of this race, but was going to finish third. We don't know because it's wide open between Kim, Koistra, and Brook.
And Kim doing a really good job here, just to go as defensive as possible without really sacrificing
a
too much
mistake
space.
from Muhammad Alif, and he loses the lead in the final lap. And the rear wing.
Yeah, we'll definitely need to get that one back up on replay there. That's dropped Fioravanti back into the lead, so he will take this one out as he makes his way down through Stowe. And once we get the drivers across the line, we'll pull up a replay there, but that's not the best for Muhammad Alif. I would love to know what's happened.
Final corner then. Luca Fioravanti wins race 2 in Silverstone, a roller coaster of emotions. At the same time, I think Kim got tagged with a slowdown. Koistra goes to third. Brook is in fourth. So a very, very chaotic final lap with a, a revolution all over the podium positions. Koistra in third, Brook in fourth, Kim in fifth. What a fantastic finish of this race. I absolutely want to go and see what happened to Muhammad Alif, because he was leading comfortably, and he hit the barriers very hard because he lost his rear wing, and it's a bit hard to find the wall around this track, so maybe he hit a curb the wrong way. We shall see as Kevin Wang beats Mark Lang for 7th place. Mark will settle for 8th, and Mark Winter will finish 9th. What a race, and what a fantastic event this was, race 1 and race 2. Lots of surprises, none more than this final lap where everything happened and then some. Let's see. So Muhammad Alif. Oh, he bounced on the grass. A big hit with the wall.
Yeah, it looked like the car just didn't want to turn through the final part of Beckett's there, and he ran way wide, which is exactly what we saw from Min Park, I think it was, earlier on in the race. So that's really unfortunate.
And then we maybe have a look at what happened in the fight for third place, because Kim was in third, and then all of a sudden slowed down. He either ran out of fuel or got tagged with a slowdown. Let's see, we are now watching the replay as we go through the same section. And that maybe was a slowdown.
Yeah, almost a similar sort of thing to what we saw for Muhammad Alif, both running wide through that last section there. So the tyres all but beat, and yeah, he would have definitely got a slowdown as a result of that, which allowed both Kroistra and Ben Brook to get up position.
And what a finish this was in race 2. Exciting stuff, like all season has been. Very, very exciting. Here we go with the final race results then. For the penultimate round of the season, Luca Fioravanti wins from Muhammad Alif. Koistra rounds up the podium. Benjamin Brook take him 4th and 5th. Fuji Sartono, Kevin Wang, Mark Lang, the last car on the lead lap. Mark Winter 1 lap down. Then the retirees, Park Min, Kim Joo-min, and Stephen Bouquet did not take the start. Before we go to the interviews, let me say a big thank you to the sponsors. SIMMSA, of course, the Macau-China SimRacing Association and the SimRacing Association of Singapore. Thank you very much for supporting the series and for giving us the chance to show these drivers, every Saturday afternoon or night or evening or morning for you, drivers that, due to the difference in time zones, usually do not feature in the traditional broadcasts in the European evening. So we are very happy and very grateful to have been able to bring to you another season of SimRacers Asia with one more round coming up next week. So, Daniel, before we get some of the drivers in, we can say that of course, as always, this happens every in every series, in every league that I know that I've commented on. Participation tends to drop a bit towards the end of the season. It's inevitable, but after all these seasons with the GT cars, I was a bit skeptical about the switch to F3s, being very different, but different kind of car. But I think this brought a breath of fresh air and changed a little bit the pecking order, and it was in the end a successful move for the championship.
Yeah, look, I think having the change from the tin tops to the open wheel has certainly been a nice little bit of a change. It's a series with SimRacing Asia that's predominantly been extremely heavy on the likes of the GT cars, be it GT1, GT3 most recently, and prior to that also the GTE. So they've had a really good mix in those cars. I think bringing back the open wheels, which they used to run as a sort of standalone series at a different time slot throughout the week, is a nice change. And as you say, I mean, the participation has fallen off a little bit from the initial rounds, which certainly to be expected. And I know there are a couple of other races going on, which potentially where those drivers are gone at the moment. But all in all, I think it's been a fantastic season all around. And for Mark and the guys that are running it, they've done an outstanding job.
We have an interview, and we are going to take race 2 winner, race 1 second place, Luca Fioravanti, who is going to join us. Hello, let's see if we can bring him in. Hello, Luca.
Hello, Marco. How are you?
Doing fine. Congratulations. I mean, in the first race, you were matching Mohammed lap times, but you were so similar, you couldn't close the gap. The second race, then it was a roller coaster of emotions for you.
Yes, first race he drove very well, and I don't know, I was slippery more with this low temp than with the higher temp, so I was struggling. And then I think we did the same mistake in race 2, looking for the best lap, forcing so much. And anyway, sometimes happens. And anyway, Formula 3, you cannot do any little mistake because you are immediately punished.
Yeah, I know you have had a lot of experience with the GT cars, of course, in iRacing. So how have you been adapting to these new Formula cars? Like you said, very different compared to the GT cars.
In fact, I'm losing some iRating here and there because, yes, with the GT, I made a lot of race when I was living in Italy, and now I'm living in Shanghai, so I cannot match the big endurance race that I like so much. And so I found this SIA series, and I have a try with the Formula 3. That anyway is a car that suits most a little bit better my driving styles. I raced so much in reality with cars, and so the steering is a little bit similar because the GT cars, I'm not used to steer so much.
Next week, the series will be in Montreal. You have raced on and off in the season. Will you be there? And regardless, what do you think about the Montreal racetrack?
It's a kind of racetrack that I don't like very much because I don't like where there are many chicanes. And so over there are many with the walls closed. I'm not sure if I will be able to join because my family will come to visit me. So we will see. And but for sure, I like this community, the Asia. being in Shanghai, I would like to share more race with them. And there are some good drivers. Also, sometimes I met some Chinese driver that are at the beginning, but some of them have talent.
Well, Luca, thank you very much. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank?
Because it's always nice to watch the race with the comments. So all of you and the organizer, I think Mark Lange, Kevin Wang, all these people that they are always very available to organize this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luca. Bravissimo. Complimenti.
Bye,
Nice
guys.
victory.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.
And that was Luca Fioravanti then, race winner in race 2, podium in race 1. What can we say, guys? It was a very, very entertaining season, a very entertaining day. And Daniel, sadly, only one race left in the championship.
Yeah, unfortunately, we got one final round, 2 races, luckily enough, with the 2025 split. So we do get a little bit of race action still to come. But yeah, next week, certainly final round of the season, be very interesting. We didn't actually get a chance to touch on it, but we might do it quickly now, just for the point standings after last week at Road Atlanta. And Muhammad Ali had extended his lead to 496 points over Tai Kim for Eurasia SimSports of 484. Yazrin Yali, who we didn't have out there tonight, but has been a bit of a stalwart in the series, still finds himself in third. A fair way down, though, now at 392. Muhammad Ibrahim, who wasn't here tonight, unfortunately, sitting in 4th place on 376. And then Aman Haziq for Wildlife Motorsports in 5th at 370. So there's still the opportunity for a few guys to go up and down the championship standings next week, Road Atlanta. So we'll have to see how that comes. Obviously, Mark and Kevin are going to have their work cut out after there's a couple of minor incidents throughout the race as well for the stewards. But yeah, I think one race to go, and for what the series has been, we're going to see some still great racing there.
Absolutely. And by the way, for all our viewers, there is no Europe yet tonight, but tomorrow morning, 10:45 GMT, the Aussie Mixed and Fixed Series will be back here on ApexRacingTV, so you don't want to miss that. And of course, later that day at 7:10 GMT, the second round of only 6, so you better watch it, of the Apex Racing League British GT Championship. First round in Silverstone was a massive success with 50 drivers and a lot of action. And we will be running around Brands Hatch for the second round of the championship multi-class with GT3 and the Porsche Cup car. And of course, back on Monday for the MX-5s. And there will be a lot of series entering the penultimate rounds of the championship as well. So you don't want to miss many title deciding races coming up in the next couple of weeks here on Apex Racing TV. Thank you very much, Daniel. It was a pleasure to have you as always.
Thank you, Marco. Great to have you back again after not seeing you for last week, but no, certainly thoroughly enjoyed it, and likewise to Scott behind the cameras, did a fantastic job.
Absolutely. Big thumbs up for Scott behind the cameras, and all of you watching us. Thank you very much from all of us here at Apex Racing TV. As per usual, I wish you a good night and happy racing.